welcome to the SVG-TV news for Monday, November 30th. I am Khalil Kato with the details. Members of the House of Assembly took their oaths that is at the start today of the first session of the new parliament. Lawyer Rochelle Ford received the nod and was sworn in as Speaker of the House, the first woman to hold this position in the country. Lawyer Ashel Morgan, a senator in the new ULP administration, was sworn in as Deputy Speaker, also the first woman to be appointed. Their swearing in was followed by that of the Attorney General John D. Martin. The 9 successful candidates on the Unity Labour Party ticket, along with the appointed senators, made their declaration of qualifications and took their oaths of allegiance. The ULP's office holders were made public ahead of today's swearing-in ceremony. The 6 successful candidates for the New Democratic Party, along with Israel Bruce and Chevron John, the NDP's unsuccessful candidate in North Windward, also made their declarations and took their oaths of allegiance. Following the swearing-in proceedings, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves extended congratulations to the members on both sides of the House and also expressed appreciation to former members Sir Louis Straker, former leader of the opposition Arnim Eustace, and Roland Matthews, former MP for North Leeward, for their years of service to the people of SVG. We will have more on the swearing-in ceremony in tomorrow night's newscast. And earlier today, Government Senator and Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kiesel Peters, was sworn in at a ceremony at Government House. Peters said she is ready to serve the people of SVG to the best of her ability.
I must say I'm very excited, understandably nervous. In fact, it's a whole mixed bag of emotions, and in St. Vincent we're familiar with the concept of a mixed bag. It has a bit of everything. But most importantly, I am ready for the challenge. I am ready to serve St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the people who know me best know that when it comes to St. Vincent, there is no other comparison. As the young people say, I go hard for St. Vincent. And in times like these where, for instance, the coronavirus has caused tensions globally to be high, I have every confidence that our diplomacy will continue to be at its highest. To the government, the Honorable Prime Minister, the ministers of government who gave me this opportunity, I wish to say thank you. And I will not let you down.
Peters also thanked her family, friends, and others who believed in her and continue to support her in her personal and professional life.
To my mother, she couldn't be here. We know the restrictions because of the virus. And my mother is a prayer warrior, and all of her prayers since I have been born have been answered. In fact, I am one of her prayers that was answered. My dad, who's not here, and I get emotional every time I talk about my dad because I know he would have been proud, and in some way I say he is proud because I am here and I'm a representation of him, and I know if he was here today, later on he would go and he would go brag on to all his friends and say, you know, my daughter is Minister of State. And you know, I love my dad and I miss him every day, but I will do my best to keep his legacy and his name alive with good things. To all the persons who I've encountered in life's journey, be it educationally, socially, professionally, I wish to say thank you because you have made a positive impact on my life and helped to shape me into the person I am today. To my friends, my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest defenders, even when I didn't know I needed defending, but I will find out later on that they defended me tooth and nail. Thank you. I love you all very much. Thank you.
Governor General Dame Susan Duggan congratulated Peters on her appointment, noting that she has heard glowing reports about her academic achievements. The Governor General said she is convinced that Peters is well aware of the effort, dedication, discipline, and sacrifice necessary for one to achieve in life.
As a parliamentarian, you are now part of a government, that continues to advance a robust legislative agenda to support growth, development, and the well-being of Vincentians. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there is much to look forward to, and I encourage you to use every opportunity to learn from some of the most outstanding politicians, and one is standing right beside you now, and those in the region. Although our nation is small, we have the full attention of the international community with our representation at and contribution to the UN Security Council. I have no doubt that you will contribute to this culture of excellence by drawing on your enthusiasm, knowledge, and ability to get the job done.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves also congratulated Peters on her appointment and said that his government is keen on promoting and advancing young people, especially women. He noted that there are too few women in politics and there is a need to find ways to advance women in Parliament in SVG.
Be noted that there are 5 persons whom I have outside of the election process to initiate some movement to put women, young women in senior positions in the Parliament and in the government, that I have chosen to initiate the process with 3 of the 5 appointments. As you notice that we are moving into a generation of the children of the education revolution.
And the unsuccessful NDP candidate in the North Windward constituency, Chevron John, was among the new senators who took their oaths of allegiance in Parliament today. She is one of 2 opposition senators. Just before taking the oath, she spoke to members of the media outside the Parliament building, explaining why she decided to take up the position.
Senator John, you're the only female on the opposition side. You were a teacher and then you decided to give up that job. I understand it pays a lot better than the senator's job. What informed that decision?
Service to humanity is the best work of life. Oh boy. Not salary.
And are there any particular issues as a woman that you'll be focusing on in the Senate?
Well, you have said it. As a woman, I'm looking at women's issues and any other issue that will be for the benefit of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we will address those issues.
Former Minister of Tourism Cecil Mackey was given a celebratory send-off last Saturday by the Ministry of Tourism, Sports and Culture. A former permanent secretary in that ministry, Laverne Grant, was also on hand to wish her former minister well as he moves on to other pursuits. Mackey served as Minister of Tourism from 2019 until just before the November 5th general elections. Several heads of departments who worked alongside Mackey paid glowing tributes to the former minister, who was commended for promoting a number of programs that fell under his purview.
Didn't participate. Of course, sometimes he may not be able to come to the events we have, but he said, Max, I have something else, maybe you can stand in for me, say a few words. He's always involved. Put your hands together for our involved minister.
The compound that his constituency office is, and making a great impression. And we, on behalf of the 9 Mornings Committee, felt we had to do something reflective of the efforts that this honorable gentleman has made.
So on behalf of our chairman, Mr. Gideon Nash, our board, and all our staff at National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, we want to extend our sincere, heartfelt thanks for all the support, encouragement, challenging sometimes where you challenge us to actually lift the game and do better, and for all the collaboration and the things that we have achieved working together.
Who has loved culture from the depths of his being. He is one who has always thought outside of the limitations and the boundaries that have been put on Carnival and on culture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The minister was serenaded by song performed by the Culture Department as well as from the Carnival Development Corporation.
On my breath. When I reach by the bar, pour me drink in a glass, and they call it Saga Boy. They call me my pants and shirt, your blouse and skirt, and I feel you know see up my eyes. Also we do it on the time we touch the road and we reach by the gate, we party, we don't start the party.
Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Tourism Authority, Glenn Beach, has emphasized the need for training in customer service, especially now that more hotels are being built. Speaking yesterday on NBC Radio's Views on Issues program, Beach said that standards have to improve. The bar for customer service must be lifted, and now is a fitting time to do so while visitor arrivals are still flat.
It's one of the things I'm actually a bit worried about in terms of when these properties, beaches, Marriott and so on, come on stream. We do have the Hospitality and Marine Institute out at Diamond, which I'm hopefully that should be starting their programs soon. But it definitely customer service, the way you speak to people, how you approach them, all of these things are going to be important. Our housekeeping training might have to change a bit now, obviously because of the pandemic. You might have to put some more things in place, but it definitely has to be part of what we do, especially moving forward. As we welcome more people to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it's going to be more important. More restaurants are going to open up. Probably you see quite a few of the present boutique properties. Some of them will be expanding.
Beach said as we learn to live with COVID-19 as a new normal and with the imminent availability of a vaccine, preparation is key. He also identified the taxi services as another area in the tourism sector that must offer excellent customer service, noting that this group also needs additional training.
Taxi drivers, the taxis have to go through a process of training, CPR, first aid, for example. We get a lot of the complaints. People will write us and say, well, this taxi drivers took us to a hotel and refused to take the luggage out the back. And so it becomes important in terms of it, because as I tell, and both taxi drivers associations have done a pretty good job. Pops and I have a good relationship. But as I tell them, you're basically on the front line, because as soon as you leave the airport, taxi driver is basically the first person you meet. And so that sets a tone. So a lot of times when we get these complaints, when we speak to people, I say, it's the tone you use, how you go about doing it, what it is. There's nothing worse than somebody paying a fare to find out that they've been overcharged, and it leaves a bad taste in their mouth.
Meanwhile, Minister of Tourism Carlos James said that his ministry will be marketing SVG come next year as a premier tourism destination, noting that the country's COVID-19 case numbers are low and there are rigid protocols in place.
Yes, we can look at in the context of the question you raised, as St. Vincent as a destination that more or less is a safe haven. We have to obviously tighten a lot of the protocols that we are hoping to, in the new year, roll out St. Vincent as a premier destination. And despite the COVID pandemic, we have to still see how we can attract persons to the destination, see how we can improve on our product. But naturally, once we have, remodeled our protocols, we look at the emergence of new vaccines in relation to travel. I'm potentially seeing us moving in that direction as soon as we possibly can.
The discussions on Sunday came as the Ministry of Tourism and stakeholders wound up activities marking Tourism Week under the theme Resilient, Responsible and Rediscover SVG. Meanwhile, the Minister of Tourism and his staff were engaged in the cleanup of the Fitzhugh Beach last week as part of Tourism Awareness Week activities. They were joined in this effort by residents of the community and students. James, who is the parliamentary representative for North Leeward, which includes the Fitzhugh community, said that community cleanups enhance the beauty of the environment and should always be done.
Decided to come to Fitzhugh's to be a part of the exercise and keeping the environment clean, and the environment really starts with us. And as part of Tourism Month and Tourism Week, the week of activities we have planned, it's important that all of us focus on building our capacity within the ministry and the product that we offer, as this is a tourism site, it's a beach. But the amount of garbage that we had to remove here today, it's a clear indication that all of us, we have an important role to play. Not just the stakeholders, but also the community and the community's involvement in ensuring that our environment is clean.
The minister has thrown out an invitation to all Vincentians to be more conscious of their environment and to play a role in its upkeep.
As simple as this river is, it's a very important part of the community life. There are persons who come here to wash, they come here to get water for the animals. There are persons who also use it as a bath. Just ahead of me, there's a man cleaning some fish. So it's very much a part of community life here in the Fitzhugh community. And our role is to ensure that the message goes out to members of the community that we have to work together in terms of keeping the environment clean. Today we spend most of the morning on the beach, a lot of logs, a lot of plastic, quite a few stuff that came from the river onto the beach itself. And it's really not a good look. It's something that we have to work on and we have to improve on. And I'm happy that my ministry is lending support to all of the different stakeholders within the ministry.
The Ministry of Tourism spearheaded several cleanup activities last week as they observed Tourism Awareness Week. Consultant nephropathologist at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, Dr. Tawana Brown-Caesar, says that diabetes is one of the leading causes of kidney failure and chronic kidney disease in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Dr. Caesar said the Ministry of Health is doing its best to prevent or delay the progression of diabetes and its effects on the kidneys.
I tell persons, I say, look, unless you check for it, unless you have the blood test done, unless you have your urine checked to see if you are leaking proteins abnormally in your urine, and your body's not supposed to be leaking proteins through the kidneys. So if you have those things, then you have it. Now, unless you have lost 75% or greater function of the kidneys, most of the times you have absolutely no symptoms. And this goes to further reiterate why we need to be checking our urine to see if we're leaking proteins. And they ask, when do we start checking your urine to see if you're leaking proteins in the urine? You want to start if you have diabetes that require insulin, or what we call type 1 diabetes. You should start checking your urine at about 5 years after you were diagnosed with diabetes. If you have type 2 diabetes, and that's diabetes that could rely on medications to control, then you can start checking it at the time of diagnosis. Not only if you're leaking protein from your kidneys, but also if your blood test and your kidney function test from the blood, if that is abnormal.
Highlighting the importance of the kidney to the body, Dr. Caesar encouraged diabetics to get their urine tests done, as this helps to identify the presence of protein in the urine. She noted that at least 50% of persons are on dialysis because of the impact of diabetes on their kidneys. And she highlighted the risk factors that can lead to a diabetic developing chronic kidney disease.
Your race, your family history. So can't really do much in terms of our ethnicity, but there are other factors such as if we're overweight or obese, if we smoke, if we have associated diabetes or high cholesterol. These are things that worsen the outcome or increase your chances of developing kidney disease associated with diabetes.
Dr. Caesar listed some medications that are used in the treatment of kidney disease and which cause protein to show up in urine under control. However, she warned about the dangers of using bush, which can have serious repercussions.
There are medications that control how much protein you leak, or in some cases completely reverse the leakage of proteins, and these are commonly available and they're extremely cheap, and
can be used as a beneficial agent. These are called ACE inhibitors. Common ones would be lisinopril, enalapril. Another group, or the cousin group of that, would be the losartans and that group of medications. Some medications that we use to treat diabetes itself, we notice now, and recent studies in the last 5 years suggest that they completely or significantly improve not only the kidney function but also the control of other diseases, including heart disease. And that group of medication, that's the SGLT2 inhibitors.
Diabetes does not only affect people physically, but also it affects them psychologically and socially. Counselor in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Odelia Thomas, said the reason for this is because it requires frequent monitoring of the blood sugar level, careful consideration of daily activities and the nutrients which place a high demand on persons living with diabetes.
So it can affect your mental health, your well-being, and your quality of life. So some of the factors that can be affected with a person living with diabetes are your environmental and social factors. So for example, your finances will determine your nutrition, what sorts of vegetables you can buy, what sort of food you can buy. Your clinic attendance, which is your behavioral factor, also affects how well you live with diabetes. And your emotional factors would include things like how you cope with pain and stress. Also, somebody living with diabetes might have a fear of needles. I know I do. So that person might be afraid when they go to the clinic, they might be afraid of the needle, they might be afraid that when they check their blood sugar that it might be low or it might be too high, and then they start worrying about the complications of living with diabetes.
Thomas, who was speaking on the ministry's Facebook page, said that persons with diabetes are at a greater risk of developing depression and anxiety, which can lead to poor lifestyle habits.
Lifestyle decisions. For example, if you're feeling really down and depressed, you might not want to get out of bed, you might not feel like exercising, you might not feel like eating all the vegetables. When I feel down, I want ice cream. So somebody who's living with diabetes, eating ice cream and cookies and cake all the time will affect your blood sugar levels. So depression can lead to poor lifestyle choices. Depression can also affect your ability to perform certain tasks, such as communicating and successfully managing your diabetes. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a normal reaction to stress. However, when it becomes a problem is when it involves excessive fear and anxiety, which affects how you function in your daily life.
Thomas suggested ways in which persons living with diabetes can manage depression and anxiety.
Stay connected to the ones you love. Right now, a lot of people have cellular phones. We have access to the internet in most communities. Call your loved ones. Send them a text message. Stay connected to them. Join a support group. Many clinics have a diabetes and hypertension support group. Join a support group where you will be surrounded by persons who are living with the same illness as you and who can support you. Do things that make you feel good. Whatever that is, positive things, do things that make you feel good. Exercise. It helps to boost your mood. It not just only helps your diabetes, but it helps you to feel good. Eat a well-balanced diet. Get a daily dose of sunlight for at least 15 minutes each day. Limit your alcohol, caffeine, and other drug intake, and humor. A laugh goes a long way.
Today, Monday, November 30th, marks the official end of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. General Manager of the SVG Met Services, Billy Jeffers, says this season was a crucial one with three major factors. A drought which severely affected farmers, resulting in the loss of crops and livestock, an ongoing health crisis, that of the COVID-19 pandemic, with fears that the weather conditions could have resulted in mass gatherings in shelters, and the hurricane season itself, which was forecasted to be extremely busy. Jeffers said that he is pleased that Vincentians are now paying a lot more attention to the advisories issued by the Met Services, which are intended to protect life and property.
And you could see it, the interaction and the feedback from, social media pages and so forth. And, a lot of people would call the office and, so that is very important. And what I want to add to that is we are living in a time where, the weather is drastically changing. And considering the climatological outlook for the region, it is expected to intensify in terms of more severe drought and more impactful tropical water systems. So that is good that the citizens of St. Vincent and Grenadines is paying a lot more attention to the weather and the climate.
With respect to the challenges encountered during the 2020 hurricane season, Jeffers said there were some issues with equipment which hampered their ability to have real-time data. He said the equipment is key in providing early warnings, and their rainfall model, which predicts what the rainfall is likely to be, was underestimated, and in such instances they had to apply other skills.
I commend my staff, the forecasters at my office, for a job well done. I also want to commend NEMO for the work we do together, and as well as CWSA and the other stakeholders for their collaborative effort. Yeah.
Yes. You mentioned the real-time data. How important was that during the course of the season in giving early warnings to the masses?
Well, real-time data is very critical because what we have rainfall data that monitors the rain as well as the water level stations which are located in the rivers. So we are able to, once we monitor, we are able to see when there's a rise in terms of the river levels and when the rain reach a particular threshold. So, the real-time data is very key for us in providing that early warning.
Minister of Agriculture Soboto Caesar says that as of January 2021, the Ministry of Agriculture will adopt a different approach to production and productivity here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Lively Farm Road at Diamonds Village last Friday, Minister Caesar said a commodity approach will be promoted.
We have a clear analysis already completed of all the value chains of the commodities that we can competitively produce in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we are going to assign and align persons from the extension unit to work with different cadres of farmers throughout the country to develop the commodity approach, which will include and involve, definitely will be touching on concerning, every inch of the value chain for each commodity. So for example, we are going to identify different agri-ecological zones. Here in Lively, when this road is completed, an assessment will be done of the soils, an assessment will be done of the available farmers and the factors of production here. And we will look at the best and the most fitting commodities to be produced here.
Minister Caesar said a farm field school approach will be used in tandem with the commodity production thrust, and they will start with the farmers at Diamonds.
And here is where we are going to bring the farmers from Lively together, outline to them what is the tech pack needed, the technology needed to produce the particular commodity which will be selected. And we are going to work with the farmers, that group of farmers, right from cultivation straight through the value chain through marketing. Hither, we had an approach whereby extension staff, they were assigned to a geographic region. And when you're assigned to a geographic region, you basically would meet the farmers, you would hear what commodities they want to participate in. But the markets today are very volatile, and the markets have particular demands, and there are different levels of certification needed.
The Agriculture Minister said the approaches would bring a more centralized methodology of production to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to its stakeholders.
And what the commodity approach is going to bring to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to stakeholders is a more centralized methodology of production. We are seeing currently where on the leeward side of the country, we have 3 hotels being built. On the windward side, we have 2 hotels being developed. We have an Argyle International Airport. We have growing markets throughout CARICOM and OECS. In fact, St. Vincent and the Grenadines today is being boasted as the breadbasket of the Southern Caribbean.
Minister Caesar said when the new approaches are launched, he wants farmers and other stakeholders to participate and appreciate the new alignment which will be taking place. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry is the beneficiary of 2 vehicles that were made available through the Global Environment Facility, GEF, under the project Conserving Biodiversities and Reducing Land Degradation Using Reef Approach. The keys were handed over last Thursday to Permanent Secretary Nerissa Gittins-McMillan by Project Coordinator Sharika Mandeville. The Permanent Secretary thanked the GEF for the donation and said that the Ministry of Agriculture will ensure that the vehicles are used to help make the project a success.
Our communities, and once our communities can have better access, communities would strive and become better. And once the communities are positively impacted, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines overall would become better for it. So on behalf of all those involved, I wish to say thank you very much for the handing over of the vehicles. We look forward now to the actual implementation of the project so that we can all see what is happening and be better off for it.
The focal point for the Global Environment Facility project, Fitzgerald Providence, explained the mission of the project in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
This project, which is funded under GEF 7, Global Environment Facility 6, not 7, 6, where we're looking at conserving the biodiversity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines from the rich to reef approach. The project encompasses forest management, agriculture, particularly climate-smart agriculture, and also protection of biodiversity, reaching all the way to the Grenadines island of Union Island. So this project will cover actually the rich to reef approach in terms of conservation of biodiversity.